Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Kato and I'm so happy to be joining you again today on the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. Today I'm going to share 3 cards using all 3 dies from the Scarlett Flora die set by Crafty Meraki. I haven't had a chance to use these yet, but I had so much fun using them today. Now I started out by die cutting all 3 flowers 3 times out of thick white cardstock and once from cardstock that is perfect for ink blending. I used Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock, so that is going to be my top layer. So I added glue to all 3 thick white cardstock dies and then I just stuck them all together with the Clairefontaine cardstock on top. Now, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of intimidated by these dies because I am intimidated by roses. I think they are too elegant for my kind of card making and they are too classic for my kind of card making. I always have trouble making them fit my style. However, today I had an idea that made them a little bit more playful and I think it worked and I had a lot of fun with it as well. It's a great way to stretch your dies and stretch your stencils for a completely different look, so I definitely had fun with it. Now I'm using some Pinkfresh Studio inks to blend these roses and I did mask off the stems and the leaves there, so I could only add color to the actual flower. And I'm using some oranges and some pinks. I think I used coral reef and passion fruit for the pinks at this stage. And I also used some apricot and clementine for the oranges. So they're quite untraditional colors for these roses. And I'm just making sure that I have some light patches in these roses and some more deep colors, some more saturated parts for the shading. And with that base layer of color on there, I am going to add some fun with stencils. I just used some basic stencils that I had in my stash. I think these are from Dutch Doobadoo, but I honestly am not sure at this point. My stencil stash is a bit of a mess currently. But I am using some darker colors to blend on some very basic patterns. These happen to be dots. I am going to do another rose with some sort of drop pattern and it's all fun. So any stencil with a small pattern on it will work. I'm going to do the same thing for all 3 roses. So again, what I'm doing is I'm taking some darker shades. Actually, I am starting out with the darkest shade I used on the first layer. So the darkest shade for the first layer was passion fruit. I'm reusing that and then I'm going back in with Berrylicious, I think the next shade up is. So I am just adding a little bit of shading to these. Now, once I'm done adding the pattern with the stencil, I do go back in without the stencil to soften it a bit. So I add a little bit more shading to soften the pattern and make it blend in a little bit more nicely with the rest of the rose. So I pick up a little bit more ink and just go around the edges to add a little bit more shading and to make the pattern blend in nicely. And once I'm happy with how the flowers are blended, I can just shift the masking or add new masking, and then I can blend on some greens for the stems and the leaves. These parts were a little bit too small to add stenciling to, and also I didn't want to distract from the stenciling I had already done. I thought it would be a little bit too busy if I also added a pattern to the stems and the leaves. Now you can see I hold these die cuts in place with some double folded purple tape, so they are adhered to my little laminated sheet of white cardstock, and because they are stacked together nicely, they are also really sturdy, so it's really easy to ink blend them this way. Now I didn't want just a plain white card to put these on, so I added some embossing to all 3 cards. I added embossing directly to the card base, so it's a really fun way to add a touch of fun and whimsy to the inside of your card as well. And once that's done, I also die cut some basic shapes. I used some of the new Pinkfresh Studio, or they're new to me at least, stacked diamonds and nesting diamonds and nesting hexagons. And then I also used a basic oval die from my stash. I die cut them from glitter cardstock just to add some more fun to these cards. I used gold and light blue and silver, and I'm just gluing the roses onto these. I'm offsetting them, so I'm not gluing them right in the middle of that geometric shape, because I like things to be offset. I really don't like things when they're just perfectly centered. I think it's a little bit boring sometimes, and I'm always afraid that my cards are boring, so offsetting things is a really basic way to make it a little bit more interesting. Now, you can see that I am doing all parts for, well, the same part on all three cards at the same time. So I'm gluing the shapes down, I'm gluing the roses down, and then I can move on for all three cards to add a sentiment. And then I'm going to move on for all three cards to add some pearls. So this is how I do any kind of mass assembly. This is not mass assembling at all. It's only three cards, but still, I do all parts at the same time, so I only have to have those supplies out when I'm working. Now, the sentiments I'm adding are from honeybee stems because I made a bunch of these. Once I got the stamp and die set, I just mass produced them, so I have a ton of these laying around, and they were perfect to add to these cards. But any sentiment will work. Crafty Meraki has some beautiful sentiments as well. I just had these and I needed some quick sentiments to finish all three cards. I added those with some foam squares to make them to make sure that they went over the stem of the rose okay. So they're level with the rose. For another fun touch, I am adding some pearls. These are all Crafty Meraki Sparkle Opal Gems. I am adding some blue ones here to match with the blue glitter cardstock. And on the silver one, I added some of these Peridot Opal Meraki Sparkle Gems. I'm really bad at remembering the color names, but these ones are the gold opal ones. I'm definitely sure these are the gold opal ones to match with the gold diamond, and I just had fun with it. These are really simple cards and they look really clean and simple. They were really easy to make, but with that fun stenciling on the rose, they stand out a little bit more than usual, I think. I really like how these turned out. I am so happy with how this little idea with the stenciling on the die cuts worked out. I'm very happy I finally managed to use these Scarlett dies because they are so fun, and I hope you like it too. I hope you like this video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to read them. You can also check out more inspiration on the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. I will be back next week with some inspiration for the new release, actually. Next week is the new Crafty Meraki release, and I hope you stay tuned for that because there's some really fun things coming up. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.